Hi everyone, it's Moonlight Mason. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, and I know I have a few new subscribers as of the last couple of weeks, I think, welcome. And I love when you leave a comment below. Let me know that you're new. Say hello so that I can say hello and welcome you properly to the channel. Also, if you're a returning subscriber, you know how much you mean to me. And this video is going to be all about Trisha's triggers, how we can identify those triggers, exactly what they are, not only for Trisha, but for ourselves as well, and what you can do when you're triggered. So if this is something that you would like to know more about, or just know my views, you're going to have to keep watching. Okay, so before we actually start with this Fremenies number 31, which is where Trisha Paytas gets very triggered, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place to start because there is so much to her being triggered that we can talk about. Now, before we get into this little piece where she gets triggered by innocent person, Ethan, let's talk a little bit, and I've got some notes here, but let's talk a litwhat does it mean to be triggered? Or, you know, it's kind of synonymous with PTSD. What does that exactly mean? Post-traumatic stress syndrome, or being triggered, right? Well, basically it means that there is a psychological stimulus that happens. Now, this psychological stimulus can come in the form of, you know, a scene, a piece of clothing, a scent, the sound of someone's voice, or something that pushes a button. Now, these buttons are triggers, and there's, especially with Trisha Paytas, she has so many of these buttons, so many triggers, and we'll get more into that. But these triggers will bring out the response of something that has not been healed in childhood, or that you had a traumatic experience with. It could be in childhood, or it can be as an adult, and the memory of that experience, that tragic moment, that tragic experience, has been saved in your memory. It's been saved in your muscle tissue. Many times when people go and get massages at certain places in their body, it can create a trigger, which would be an uncomfortable memory. And that happens so quickly that the response, right, is so quickly that you're not really sure why you were triggered at the time, until you kind of go back and you take some time to realize what happened. And that's exactly what happened with Trisha when she made that video following the Fremenies, giving her explanation of why she was triggered. Triggers are usually talked about in a negative sense, because if a trigger is positive, it's called deja vu. So, you know, when you have that feeling that you've been somewhere before, or, you know, when you're going through mementos that maybe your parents saved or something like that, and you come across, say, a hair clip of yours when you were a child, you can hold that hair clip, and that hair clip would bring memories to you, right? And some of the memories may be really positive. And that's called like deja vu. Oh, I remember this. You know, oh, it's like I've been here before. I have been here before. I was there when I was little. That's deja vu. You have a feeling that something is familiar in a positive sense. But triggers, in the way we're going to talk about them today and the way they are portrayed in the media today, are all negative triggers with consequences. Now, let's go through this video where Trisha gets triggered
You wrestle women all the time.
I'm not gonna wrestle you.
You want to box? You just want to punch me in the face?
Well, I'm not gonna wrestle you. There's too much contact. Like, I'm not gonna hug you and roll around on the floor. It's just
That's not wrestling.
Well, it is, kind of.
Oh my god,
Isn't it?
you?
I have to grab you and go to the ground. I'm just not, I don't want to do that with you.
So you don't want to punch me in the face?
Yeah, I said I'll box you.
I'll wrestle because I'm a good wrestler, and women can wrestle back.
Center of gravity.
I wrestled guys, and if we were in the same weight class, we can wrestle them all day long, so we are the same weight.
I'm not wrestling you.
You're a baby.
I'm not wrestling you. You're a baby. Ethan said, I'm not wrestling you. You're a baby.
I'll box you.
You're a pussy.
You're a pussy. I'll box you. You're a pussy. Okay, this is where it starts. See, she doesn't know that she's already been triggered. Obviously, listen to her responses. She doesn't know yet. Okay, and one of the things that we're going to talk about, right, on how to help yourself if you get triggered right now, right, is a very, very important time in doing something, in Trisha taking responsibility for her being triggered right at this second here. She needs to recognize it, but she doesn't recognize it yet. You know, you're a baby, you're a pussy. Excuse me, what kind of responses is that to someone saying, I don't want to do this? Continue.
I don't want to get punched in the face. I can wrestle, I just don't want to get punched.
I'll do you body shots only. Right in the spleen.
That sounds more sexual.
Now, isn't this the first time that she brought it up? That sounds more sexual. Who is talking about sex yet? No one's talking about sex.
You only want to hit my body.
You're the only person on YouTube, because you know how everyone's always trying to do these boxing matches? Like, this is the new craze. You're the only person I box. Pay-per-view. Pay-per-view event.
Wrestle. WWE, WrestleMania. Ethan versus Trish.
No.
You're scared. I'm a good
It's
wrestler.
disgusting. I don't want to get on the floor and touch you.
You think guys are doing that?
So she said, Ethan said, no. He goes, I don't want to get on the floor and touch you. And then Trisha cut him off and said, do you think that guys... What happened, Trisha? What happened to abuse? Any kind of abuse? SA? No is no. You guys, because Trisha is triggered, this is abusive. And I will explain more. Continue.
That for sexual gratification? Yeah.
She's saying like WWE stuff.
Yeah.
That's fake. You want to do a choreographed bit with me?
I mean, I can do college wrestling too. It's not, but college guys.
You're talking about like grappling, Ethan, like real wrestling. But she's talking about like WWE.
Well, that's
not
really
that much
entertaining.
fun.
But guys,
I think it'd be super entertaining.
guys that wrestle guys don't do it for sexual gratification.
Why is she bringing up the sexual gratification again? Okay, so she doesn't realize that someone's saying to her, and you know what? This could have been anyone. You know, her sister wrestled her, and they both showed their boobs to each other. But that's normal for Trisha's family. But that anybody who says no to her to wrestling, right? Is this going to be her response?
No, but like, I'm not doing that with you.
That's a you problem. If you have such a problem that you can't touch another woman's body without it being sexual or weird, that's odd.
It's not. It's just.
It is.
See now we're starting. She goes, that's a you problem if you can't touch a woman without sexualizing her. And he's trying to say, no, that's not it. But you know what? She's on her agenda. She cannot hear. She cannot recognize the word no. What is the difference, Trisha? What is the difference? You know, you're fighting against any kind of abuse, I would hope, right? This is abusive. He said no. Look at his body language. He's like this. Look at his body language. He's turning away. He's got, look, he's going like this. He's turning away. He's like, you know, he's starting to feel attacked. And that's exactly what it is. Watch.
It's just Ethan.
No, it's literally you have a weird thing of not touching people. You're like very like have a sexual issue going on.
No.
So Trisha, what makes you an expert? Why do you think he has see, here's the thing, you guys. This is all in her mind. This is her world that she is projecting onto Ethan. Ethan never had the thought in his head, I don't want to touch her because she's dirty or she's gross or she's fat or it's sexual. He never even had the thought. He may have had the thought, I'm a pretty decent man. I'm a married man. This is something I would even, if I even considered it, I would talk to Gila, maybe not. They have that kind of relationship. I don't know, I'm sure they trust each other 100% and they should, obviously. Ethan is just a wonderful, faithful husband and father and very knows his boundaries. He knows his boundaries. Whereas this one over here, right, she's getting all stuck into a repressed, unresolved situation. Not only is it unresolved, she hasn't spoken about it that much. You may think she has, but she hasn't.
I don't want to wrestle you.
Were you
Disgusting.
Did something happen to you as a child?
Oh my God! He says, I don't want to rescue you. It's disgusting. And she goes, did something happen to you as a child? No, something happened to you, Trisha, as a child. If you listen, she tells you, okay?
Oh.
I feel like something did.
Why? Because I don't want to wrestle you?
No, but you have a touching thing in general where you can't help
Am I
but get
crazy
sexual.
for being uncomfortable wrestling Trisha? Do you find that odd? Thank you.
But why? I'm just trying to understand why.
Because there's no reason why, Trisha. No one owes you, or no one owes anyone an explanation for no. You guys, come on now. When someone says, let's go to the store, and you say no, oh, come on, let's go. Nah, no. Oh, come on, let's go. It's the same thing with drugs. It's the same thing with alcohol. It's the same thing with SA, right? Especially for, younger children, saying no. I mean, they're so easily broken down, right? And they're so easily intimidated, right? By someone like Trisha saying along the lines of the same thing. Let's listen.
You're thinking of it as a sexual way. You're
I
saying
just
I don't want to touch
don't want to touch and roll around
Okay,
with you.
because why? You think of it sexual? You think it's gross?
It's
What do you
just
say?
gross. It's like doing it with, let's say, I just think it's gross.
See, now she's putting Ethan in the position where he has to figure out his no. Okay? He has to figure it out. He goes, well, because, and he's trying to come up, it's gross, rolling on the floor. He's coming up. You guys don't have to do that, you guys. You never have to explain your no. You do not ever. Please remember this. If anything, you guys, please remember, you don't ever have to explain your no. Especially to in this kind of relationship. If it's a different kind, like maybe husband and wife, and it's a different topic or something that you're trying to negotiate, that is a discussion that should happen. Let's say you're married and one person wants to bring another person into the relationship and the other one doesn't. We need to talk about that, and you need to do what Trisha is doing now. Let's talk about this. Why? What is it? This is more of a attack, and it happens to all of us, not just to Trisha. This is what happens when you get triggered and you have not resolved it, right? In a way to where your response, that when you recognize the triggers, that your response is appropriate. Because what happened to Trisha in her traumatic experiences, right, have zero to do with this human being. That's what I'm saying. Zero to do with this human being. Now watch. It gets worse.
What do you want
Well,
from me?
but continue. Like, let's say what? Doing it with who? You just think my body is gross. Like, you don't want to touch it.
I don't really want to wrestle anyone, to be totally honest.
You just said it's just you, and now you're.
See, that no matter what Ethan says, she's going to continue with the pellet gun. Do you get it? Okay, this is the trigger, right? And she doesn't know it yet. She doesn't know what triggered her yet. She's just responding to a button that Ethan, he didn't mean to push it. He didn't even know the button was there. How in the world, because she, in her explanation video 2 times, she explained, that was not Ethan's intention. Of course it wasn't Ethan's intention, Trisha. He never even knew that button existed. How are you going to push a button if you don't even know it's there? This is all in your head, Trisha. It's in your head. And let's go through. Go.
I was going to say like a sister or something.
Okay.
Then I thought.
Okay, then this that she does. Then this that she does is part of that. It's part of that persona responding, feeling like she's being ignored, attacked, that he feels that she's gross or she's fat or whatever the case may be. And when she goes, okay, it's sarcastic. See, she's fake. This is fake, you guys. You want to see fake? Fake is when she goes, oh, okay. It's not okay. Watch.
I was just thinking about that.
Right. Okay.
Oh, is this going back to the thing about
Okay.
me secretly wanting to have sex with you?
No, I don't think so at all. I think there's like a deeper root issue where you like either I'm trying to figure it out if like you think my body's gross or it's like you're thinking of it in a sexual way.
So you think if
See, but Trisha, it's not that he's thinking these things. You're thinking them. He doesn't think these things, and he's told you, what, 3 times already? No. But you're trying to insist that he does think this way. I hope this helps you, Trisha.
It's one of 2 things. You either think I'm disgusting and you don't want to touch my body, or you're thinking of it in a sexual way. And I'm not.
Really, Trisha, why is it only 1 of 2 things? You either think my body is gross or you don't want to touch me, or you think it's why is it only 2 things, Trisha? Only 2 things in your head. No one else's head. No one else is thinking these thoughts because they didn't have the experiences that you specifically had. You need to understand this is only in your head.
I'm truly trying to figure out what it is.
So you think that
You just said gross, so it's more like you just think it's disgusting and don't want to touch my body, which is fine. I'm not like saying you have to. I'm just trying to figure out the root of it.
you think if it was a different girl that I was more attracted to, I would want to.
I was trying to figure out what it was. Is it because you think it's a sexual?
So see now, when Ethan said that to her, she couldn't answer that because that was a great question he just asked. He said, Trisha, are you trying to say that if it was a different woman, a different girl, that I would box? Even though I already told you, Trisha, I don't want to box anyone. But she goes back and she takes it back to her. Watch.
You think you don't want to touch my body, or you thought it was gross? But you told me it was just you. Rewind the tape to 5 minutes ago, and you're like, it's just you.
Because Trisha, you're throwing the pellets so quickly at him that he doesn't know how to defend himself right now. He hasn't given it much thought. Most people, when they say no, right? In SA situations or any abusive situations, they say no because they know that it's not good for them. They don't want that. No. You do not have the right to try to change that no into a yes. And you do not have the right to try to make Ethan, Trisha, resolve your issues. That's not his problem. He puts up with a lot for the money. Let's just call it what it is. Not only for the money, but she is now part of the family. And he puts up a lot, and they're gonna love Trisha, as they should, because she's with Moses and Moses loves her, and that's all that really matters, right? In the family, right? If Moses loves Trisha and Moses is gonna get married to Trisha, his family, that's all that matters. She's one of us. We love her despite everything. We love her and we welcome her, right?
I revised my statement and I thought about it and I said, I don't want to wrestle anybody.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
I'll box you.
Okay.
I'll fight.
And I already said no, that I'm not doing that, so that's a move.
Well, why are you insisting on wrestling? I don't want to wrestle anybody.
I'm not insisting it. I'm saying that's like something that I did in high school. Like it's a.
Okay, no, you did not say that that's something you did in high school. That's what you're saying now for the first time, Trisha. So now she's starting to recollect the repressed button, the repressed memory, that button. What is it about? We're getting to high school. Okay? Oh, like, this is incredible. It's so good.
It's not a sexual thing. If you're repulsed or something by my body, that's a one thing, but... Okay, that's what I'm asking.
I never said I was repulsed by your body.
Okay, but I'm asking, is it a sexual thing? You don't want to do it because you think it's weird?
But how many times has Ethan said no? And she's still asking the same questions and insisting now that he's repulsed. And look at his hands. Look at Ethan. He's like, oh my God, like it's too much. It's like, who can be in a relationship with someone who has so many triggers? There are so many buttons. Well, I guess Moses can, because I think what Moses has done is he's taught Trisha some sense. You see, all her other boyfriends, they had their issues and they were responding to her response. See, that's the problem, is when she responds this way, if Ethan responds to her in the same immature way, when he knows this has nothing to do with him, right? It's like being in a relationship. Then you have these arguments and these fights that mean nothing at all. They don't mean anything. You're not really fighting about what you think you're fighting about, because like in this case, right? It has nothing to do with poor Ethan. Look at him being tortured.
A little misogynistic, which is fine. But if it's because you don't like my body or you think it's a sexual thing, that's a different story. That's why I'm just trying to figure out where you're coming from. I'm not mad. I'm literally just trying to figure it out because that's interesting.
Well, what's interesting, Trisha, is that he has answered your questions many times right here within the last 5 minutes, and you're not listening. You keep asking the same questions over and over. That's what's interesting.
There is something deep rooted there, because I've wrestled guys in high school and stuff like that, and it was never sexual. It wasn't that they were repulsed by me when I was in the weight class.
You were actually on the wrestling team?
Yeah, I wrestled in high school. Yeah.
Oh.
Of course you want to wrestle me. You've got all this like.
But it wasn't a sexual thing, and it wasn't meant to be that way.
I didn't say anything about sexuality.
I'm just trying to figure out why. That's what I was trying to get down to, and you're not really giving me clarity. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. It's not like.
No, it does. It's not that it doesn't matter because Ethan doesn't want to do it, meaning he doesn't want to give her an explanation. Trisha, there is no explanation. No is no. This is like SA. This is the same thing, you guys. No is no. All right? It is no one's responsibility to give you an explanation for no.
Like, I'm mad about it.
Why do we have to psychoanalyze me?
It's not. It's like truly like I felt like, wow, I took a little bit of offense to it because I did wrestle in high school and it is such a thing for me where it's like.
But he doesn't know. He doesn't know to offend you. You took offense. You take responsibility for your offense, Trisha. You take responsibility for doing the work to find out why you're so offended by so many buttons, by so many things. You need to work on this, and I'm going to tell you how once we get through this.
Like, oh, I don't want to wrestle a girl. Why? Oh, because she has boobs. Or, oh, because she's fat. Or whatever it is. And so I was just trying to figure out why. It's misogynistic where it came down to it in high school. If guys didn't want to wrestle me, it's because they were misogynistic, that they didn't want to wrestle a girl.
That I agree with. If you're doing a competitive sport and they don't want to wrestle you, I
agree. But you were talking about competing and you're like, boxing, like, I'll do wrestling. You're like, yo, I don't want to touch your body. So I was like, okay, now is that because you're repulsed by my body? Or because you think...
que sigue. You know what I mean? Yeah, sigue. She's almost like, a broken record at this point. But she doesn't see herself. And you know what? She needs... This requires... this requires work. This is going to happen again and again until she works on her responses.
I think it's a sexual thing and you don't want to cross that line. So that's what I was trying to figure out.
I just don't want to touch anybody in that way.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out the answer. I think it's really important. I think it's really like...
Is it that important?
It is.
It's important to you.
I don't like misogynistic people at all. Like, I really don't. I'm not saying you are, so that's why I was trying to figure out the root of it.
Okay, but I understand why you're so upset. Because
I'm not upset.
Yes, you are.
I'm really not. I was like actually trying to figure out like, oh.
Yes, you are, Trisha. Everything that you say at this point, she is going to disagree with. Anything that you say, when she is in this state of mind, it doesn't matter if you say, Trisha, you're really pretty, or it doesn't matter what you say. except maybe, do you want a pizza? Then her tail starts wagging. But other than that, hey.
Oh, is this like a misogynistic thing, or is it like you're being funny, or as a sexual thing? I'm just trying to figure it out.
It's not because you're a girl. It's not that we're competing all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just the wrestling. If I was misogynistic, I wouldn't. We're always competing.
Right.
And you're always beating me, and I'm saying, oh, you beat me again.
Okay. Got it.
So that's not misogynistic, right?
Okay. I'm not sure. I have to
You
think
need
about
to think
it.
about it.
It's interesting.
So would it make you feel better if we wrestled?
Oh, definitely not now after all that. After you said I was uncomfortable.
All right, come on, let's
I'm
get
not
it
about
done.
not doing consent. Oh my god.
All right, come on.
No.
Ah, Jesus Christ, that took a tangent. I just don't want to touch anybody.
Okay.
And he just,
Sorry a few times, but okay.
I thought about it.
Okay.
Let's move on.
We love a thought out king.
Let's wrestle. Fuck it. Let's just fucking wrestle.
see, and when Ethan is saying that, he's trying to make light of the situation, just to try to make light and continue with the podcast, even though Trisha is highly uncomfortable. Let's talk about possible triggers. There are a lot of triggers that can happen. I suffer from triggers. Everyone suffers from triggers because no one had a perfect childhood, right? And so whatever kind of childhood that you had, whether, it was abusive or even if it was a good childhood, there are going to be certain triggers. And so what are some of these triggers? Well, I made a note of possible triggers, and they usually start with I feel. Okay, so it would have gone a lot better if Trisha would have said I feel and one of the following. Excluded. Think about these in your life when you're triggered. Okay, think about how you feel when you're triggered. I feel excluded, powerless, unheard, scolded, judged, blamed, disrespected, lack of affection, I can't speak up, ignored, I can't be honest, I feel like I'm the bad guy, I feel forgotten, unloved, unfair, frustrated, I feel trapped, I feel disconnected, uncared for, manipulated, and controlled. So these are the buttons, okay? So these buttons of these feelings that are attached to certain core initiations, which I like to call them, that have not been resolved, that we haven't spoken about, that we find ourselves projecting onto others when a button is pushed. It's really fascinating. Now, these remembrance of past events, when you remember a past event, it's often unrecognized. So when she remembered, actually this has to do with high school because that came into her consciousness after she said, for how many minutes, trying to find out, what is it, and giving, almost giving Ethan an ultimatum. Well, it's got to be A or B. Can you imagine? It's got to be A or B, or maybe it's C. There are, or unresolved trauma that can't be identified. And one of these buttons that we just went are triggered. There's three things that can happen. The three things, right? When your button is triggered, right? You fight, you flight, and or you freeze. Trisha has learned early on to fight. She fights. These triggers, there's so many of them, could manifest in a relationship, right? With Moses for Trisha, or in your relationship, if you're triggered with a deep sense of untrust, a deep fear that you have, that you don't trust, right? Because how can you trust when you trusted these adults around you? I'm making stuff up. When you were little and these bad things happened to you from strangers, people you didn't know, from people you really know, from close people that you really know, that inflicted pain and trauma upon you, right? When you're a little girl, what do? You run, you freeze, or you fight. In a relationship, these deep fears of trust can sabotage a relationship. That's number one, is you have to have trust. Many of Trisha's mental issues, these triggers, we can't resolve the triggers. See, Trisha, there's so many. She's got like hundreds of them, right? And we don't even know what they are because she hasn't even talked about a lot of them, and she's discovering them herself. But there's so many of them that it makes the other person that you're in a relationship with, after a while of them triggering you, tiptoes through the tulips again, and very, very lucky she is to have found Moses. I don't care what anyone says about Moses. I still think that Moses is a blessing for Trisha. He has given her a lot of change in her personal being, her personal well-being. I think it's from him. He must just be talking to her, just saying, just straightening her out, so to speak, getting her off the ledge all the time and just talking sense to her. And with Moses, I believe she's in love with Moses, and so she's listening to him. And this is the good news. Like, prior to her meeting Moses, we're talking about Trisha, right? She must have felt so incredibly unvalued, so incredibly gross, and all of these things that she herself says in another video. Here are your specific steps to make your triggers better. All right. So we have at least 3 things only. I'm going to give you 3 things to make your triggers better. Okay. The first thing, it depends where you are in your healing of your triggers. If you're not aware of what your triggers are, that is the first thing. And one of the things to how to become aware of what they are is that when you're triggered, just keep a diary and say, okay, so this happened and I was triggered. This happened, or I saw this, I was triggered. I heard this, trigger. I smelled this, trigger. I saw this item, trigger. Whatever it is, write down your triggers so at least you can be aware of them. And there's going to be a lot of them that you're not aware of, but thanks to your body, thanks to your spirit and your soul, they're not going to let you forget what you haven't resolved. So it's going to happen again and again and again. So don't worry if you don't know what your triggers are. You will once you start getting triggered. And all I'm asking you to do, because this is already happening to you, right? So all I'm asking you to do is write it down. That is step number 1. What that does is increases your awareness of your triggers. Step number 2, anticipate and have a plan for your triggers. This is like the most important step to make you better, right? To help you with your triggers. It's so important once you identify them, right? The next step is when it happens, have a plan. Now the plan goes like this. Okay, the first thing that happens when I'm triggered is become aware of the first thing that happens when you're triggered. Even though if you've identified your triggers and a person starts going there, you can start thinking in your head, this is one of my triggers. You can start thinking that. And once you start thinking, these are one of my triggers, start going down that line of how you are going to anticipate it and have a plan on what you're going to do so that you're not triggered. Okay. And this anticipation is being aware of it, knowing that it's coming. And the plan is, excuse me, wait, you know what? Wait, I have to go take a walk right now. I have to leave right now. I can't do this right now. This is one of my triggers. I'm just working with this right now. I don't even know how to explain it, but this is a trigger for me. I don't want it. I don't want to get into it. It's your turn to say no. You getting triggered. You need to say no. Instead of putting the other person in the position of saying no, you need to say, I can't do this. I don't want to get triggered. Walk away. Distract yourself. Okay? It's hard. You've been triggered all your life. You've had the same freaking pattern. You need to break the pattern, you guys. That's what we need to do. You want to be happy. You don't want to have all these triggers. How in the world is someone going to be happy with all these triggers going through life? You don't know. You're walking on tulips. The triggered person. You don't know when someone at the store or someone's going to say something that triggers you. They don't know your triggers. So you have to take responsibility and say, make a plan. Just make any kind of plan, even if the plan sucks at first, you know, even if it's just letting the person know you're being triggered, make a plan and do it. And I want you to think about the third thing is that if you get triggered and you start having the response or an inappropriate response to someone, such as this is highly inappropriate. This is really berating someone, right? And you're not taking someone's no for no. Let's say this is happening to you, right? Write it down, you guys. Write it down. Let's say now, after Trisha's done all this and the whole situation with the trigger is over, you made someone feel like shit, they couldn't explain it to you, you can't explain what happened, you've got to think about this. Well, just write it down. Write your thoughts. So you can write something like, next time the more you write, the more it's going to help you. You can write stuff like, next time I get triggered, I'm going to do this. If you want a change and you want to stop being triggered, take responsibility for your triggers. Know that when you are triggered and you are shooting the pellet gun at someone who has zero knowledge that button even existed that they pushed, right? Know that you're abusing this person. Know that you're abusing someone when they say no, right? And you know what, you guys, in different relationships and different things, it's okay to ask why. Why don't you want to do this? It's okay. But once you get your answer, shut the fuck up. Anything beyond that no, of you trying to persuade, convince them to do it is on you. Okay? You become the bad guy. You become the person that you are trying to avoid. Okay? You become your own trigger, right? You become unloved. You become disliked. You become ignored. Who's going to listen to this? Who's going to take this seriously? Right? Everyone's going like this with Trisha. That's Trisha. That's Trisha. Can you imagine her sister and her mother and her father after all the years of being with Trisha? Trisha acts like this with Ethan. They're like, she does that all the time. That's nothing. Right? So anyways, you guys, my dogs are barking, but I was ignored. I was ignored a lot, when I was a child. And so now when I'm ignored, I don't like it. I don't like being ignored. It's one of my things, right? Because I was ignored as a child, right? So my trigger is, hey, you didn't hear me? Did you hear me speak? Why didn't you answer? Don't do this to me, okay? I don't do this to you. And I continue and continue and continue. That is where the change is going to happen in me, right? Is being aware of it and knowing I'm triggered because I'm being ignored. I hope this helped you. Please leave your comments below. Know that Trisha is actually doing really well. She has grown tremendously since she's been in this relationship, but she still has a long way to go. So with that, I will see you in my next video, and I know that I love you guys. So with peace and love, ta-ta.